What's up guys, Kyle here again, and today we're gonna check out the Peavey Invective MH. Let's do it. Alright, hope you guys are doing great out there. I got a little carried away with the opening riff because I was having a lot of fun playing this thing. So as I mentioned in the intro, this is the Peavey Invective MH. I've had a lot of you guys asking me to demo this ever since I started getting into the Lunchbox heads, and Peavey was actually kind enough to send me one to check out. So that was really cool of them. John Fields, who is now the head analog designer at Peavey, and I have been, I won't say friends, we'll say acquaintances, because we've chatted back and forth on Facebook for a number of years now. He's always known I've been a huge Peavey fan, and I've got a soft spot for a lot of the vintage Peavey gear that was a lot of stuff that he actually worked on. So I actually hit John up asking if they knew when they would have stock somewhere where I could actually get one new sometime. And he said that they actually still had a prototype model available that they are not allowed to give away or sell or anything, that he could send to me because they weren't currently doing anything with it. So again, super cool. It's really awesome to be recognized by a company that you grew up loving. So this is a really cool opportunity to me. So thanks to John and Peavey for sending this out to me to check out. So anyways, that intro clip that you guys just heard, typically I will have an outboard overdrive or gate or something turned on. That intro was the built-in boost and the gate only. I have nothing on my pedal board over here on whatsoever. That is the guitar straight into the amp with the built-in gate and boost, and honestly it sounds fantastic. I tried a couple boosts in front of the amp earlier, and the built-in one actually sounds among the best of them, so they did a good job voicing the boost to the head. And what John told me is he really wanted this thing to capture the bigger amp as accurately as possible, and having owned the bigger amp, I can say it does that very well. And it actually doesn't suffer from some of the things that the 6505 MH suffers from, which is way too much gain and a weird mid frequency that's like really unpleasant on your ears. Like the mids function as they would on the larger amp. So far I'm having a really good time checking this amp out. But what I'm gonna do is I'm going to put everything at noon as I always do on these amps, and I'm going to run through it with no boost, no gate, and kind of dial things in as I go, show you guys what types of tones this amp is capable of, and obviously have a good time in the process. Because who doesn't like ripping through awesome high gain amps that their favorite companies send them? It's pretty cool. Okay guys, so I have everything on the amp now at noon. I have the gain turned completely off because it does come on quick, but not nearly as quick as the 6505 MH. So we'll dial that in as we go. Real quick before we jump into the amp, if this is your first time here at my channel, what I do is I take awesome high gain amps, cabs, overdrives, pickups, and guitars, record them with a simple SM57 setup, and give you guys the unprocessed audio. So if you guys are into E-standard thrash riffs and guys with crooked bottom teeth, this is the place for you. Consider hitting that like button on the way out and subscribing to the channel. I'd appreciate it. All right, let's hear how this amp sounds. All right, let's get some gain on there. Little bright as it is right there. Let's pull the presence back and pull the highs back. All right, so it already sounds pretty decent right off the bat. Let's bump that gain up just a tad. That fills out the tone a lot, and we're already into a pretty high gain territory. All right, right, so let's get that presence back up. All right, that sounds great like that. Let's get a little bit more high end. Still, with the gain this low, the amp is sounding a little bit thin, so let's bump that gain up to just above 9 o'clock. All right, so we're definitely getting into the super high gain tones really early on in the gain. Let's dial in some more bass, a little bit more mids, and bring the highs back just a tad. All right, so as it is now, it's a little muffled on top. Let's get a little more present. All right, let's keep pushing that gain a little bit more. We're up to about 11 o'clock now. Lots of good note separation and clarity, especially on the higher strings. The only thing that does suck is I am getting a good bit of noise through the speakers, but again, it's super high gain as it is, so you're talking about a really high gain circuit in this amp. It's gonna create some noise. It's not gonna be perfectly silent. But let's kick in that gate and see how that... All right, so that takes a lot of the noise away right there. Gate works really, really well. Really well, in fact. There is no way to dial in the gate or the boost like on the larger amps where you have some settings. You have the threshold setting on the larger amp, and then you have the tone and the level on the boost. Here, it's just preset how they would probably think that most people would want it, and honestly, the gate is extremely functional. Even once you have the boost engaged, it still clamps down just right. It's not overbearing. I don't know if like it's designed so that when you have the gain higher, it has a higher threshold or a lower threshold, or however you would want to say that. I'm not sure. All I know is the entire time I've been using it, I haven't had any issues with it, so take that for what it's worth. All right, sounds great like that. Let's pull that gain back and let's kick in the boost. Immediately, I like what the boost on this amp does to the upper mid frequencies. It makes them a little bit more present. So let's dial in some low end from the low and the resonance to compensate for the low end that was taken away by the boost. That was quite a bit right there. Didn't take much. Let's get a little bit more mid and a little bit more high. That sounds really, really nice. And again, perfectly silent as soon as you're done playing. That's really good. It's actually a little too big in the lows for me, so let's dial it back. The low dial on the EQ on this amp definitely adds some more low mids too. It adds like this guttural type of or frequency to the EQ and makes it sound more modern. It makes it sound meaner too. All right, so that sounds really good. Let's pull the mids back and see what happens if we add a little bit more treble. Man, that's got a big low end and a really big like low mid spike just by dialing the low frequency up on the EQ a little bit. That's almost occupying like a Mesa dual rectifier channel 3 modern type tone setting. Like, I'm surprised at how much difference that makes pulling those mids back. Let's dial them back up. Dial it back up and you get more of a Peavey cocked wah mid thing going. Let's dial it up even more because I like my mids. All right, let's try dialing the presence back a little bit and the highs up. Either way you put it, it's nice. It's almost like the highs kind of open up the EQ of the amp a little bit more, whereas the presence, if you dial the highs back, dial the presence up, almost just gives it a little bit of a crispier tone, but it makes it sound thicker at the same time because you're not pushing as many high frequencies through. Oh man, this amp is so much fun. Like, no matter how you dial it, you get a good usable tone, but the EQ actually has a noticeable effect on the voicing of the amp. So pretty cool. So what I'm gonna do, I'm actually going to turn the onboard boost off, turn my deadwell duality on, and see how well it takes an outboard boost. All right, so that actually almost adds some kind of unpleasant like upper, mid, and treble frequencies. On this amp, I would probably do the same thing that I do with the 6505 MH, which is stick a couple of 5751 preamp tubes in this amp to kind of tame the gain a little bit, take a little bit of that buzziness out of it, and give it just a slightly more usable gain range. That's what I did to the 6505 MH. It made a big difference for me. So if you have this, you feel like it has a little too much gain, give that a try. You might like it. All right, so that sounds good. Let's try one more boost just because we're having fun here. I've got the Walrus Audio Ages Overdrive in here. This is the 5-state overdrive. This overdrive has a ton of output to it. That sounds awesome too. So no matter what you throw in front of it, it sounds really, really good. The gate is great. It hasn't been giving me any issues with feedback so far. I'm pretty loud in the room. I've got this thing at 5 out of 10. It's not gonna be loud enough to play shows or anything, but it's pretty loud when you're sitting right next to it for sure. Man, I can't say enough good things about it, guys. I'm really enjoying playing this thing, so. All right, so there's also a tight switch on this amp. You kick that in and it actually dials the gain down and gives it kind of like a quacky feel. So knowing that Misha is, you know, a gent god, it makes sense. I don't know how to play gent. I don't know what I'm doing. But anyways, you can definitely hear the difference that that tight switch makes in the overall signal. I'm gonna turn the boost off. So you got to turn the gain up quite a bit to compensate for that. And then it gets really fat. So let's turn that down. Onboard boost on. Sounds good, but when you have the gain that high, I know gent guys play pretty low to moderate gain tones most of the time. So it makes sense that you would want the gain to be reduced and have it down here. Oh my God, me trying to play gent is gonna become a meme, I'm sure. Let's kick that tight switch off, roll the gain back down. I'm gonna play like one more riff and then we're gonna get out of here. But yeah, this thing sounds great, guys. I'm definitely digging this more than the 6505 MH, and I really liked that one too. Had a couple shortcomings to me, but this one sounds bigger. It sounds more true to the big amp, and it's just got a lot of nice features built into it for the price, so. Alright guys, that's going to do it for me today on the Peavey Invective MH. What did you guys think of this thing? Let me know down in the comments. I'm curious to see what you guys heard on your end that I didn't hear. If you own this amp, let me know what you think of it. Let me know how you feel it stacks up against other amps. And while I have it, let me know what other Lunchbox amps you would like me to stack this thing up against. That way you can get a good comparison if you're in the market for this and a couple others. I'll definitely try to put it up against anything I can while I have it in my possession. So anyways, if you liked the video, hit the like button on the way out. Consider subscribing. Really appreciate you watching. Kyle here again. We'll see you guys next time.